Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is when you're watching this. Hello, welcome back to another live stream. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope you're all having a good weekend so far. Hope that you are enjoying all the Eurovision stuff that's going on. Welcome back. Hope you are okay. There may be it looks like we might be having a couple of latency issues at the beginning. Hopefully it's all okay. If there are any issues, apologies, do let me know. Hopefully all the audio is fine though, and we will be all good. But yes, hope everybody is doing okay. We have had obviously quite a few different national finals have been going on. So I thought it would be good to sort of catch up, see where everything is. We haven't had any new songs selected so far. So, since the last time I did a live stream, we've still got the 3, potentially 2. Don't know what's happening with Bulgaria and this whole maybe their singer is being arrested thing. That seems a bit strange, but we'll see. But yes, hope everybody is doing good. And yes, if you don't know, this is a Eurovision channel. Hi, I'm Chris. Nice to meet you if you don't know me already. As always, please do leave comments along if you are watching live. Leave them in the live chat. If you are watching back, then, leave comments down below. Do all that kind of stuff. Leave a like, hit subscribe if you haven't already. And yes, we have got quite a bit to catch up on. So, let us begin with, as the title suggests, we've got 2 main national finals to talk about, which is Lithuania's Pabandom is naujo, which I probably have butchered the language of, I do apologise, and Norway's Melodi Grand Prix. So let's start with Lithuania, Pabandom. And, we've had all 3 heats now, so we've heard all the songs, we've seen all the performances, we've got 2 semi-finals and then a final to come. And yeah, it seems like it's been a bit of a mixed bag. I think in previous years, since they started doing this format, Lithuania, it feels like a lot of people have been quite a big fan of what Lithuania have been doing and trying some things there. So, yeah, it's not been received quite as well, but I do think last night was the final heat 3, and it felt like there was a lot more, it felt like they really stacked the deck quite high with heat 3. It felt like they had, really 5 or 6 really strong songs, which had they all been in the other heats, I think would have balanced things quite nicely. In the end, of course, it didn't work out, but at least for me, I thought that 5 of those 6 really good songs actually made it through. So in the end, it didn't really matter. It wasn't like we necessarily lost out on a really, really strong song because the deck was stacked. So yeah, we've got some big-ish names from Lithuania's past, either from Eurovision or from the national finals to talk about and who are competing. Obviously, for me, the big one, I suppose, is Ieva Zasamaskaite, who obviously I was a huge fan of in 2018. There is a clip of me in one of her music videos where I'm hugging her at Eurovision because we really got on quite well. So yeah, obviously that's really exciting that she is back, and I'll Be There, her new song, I really like it. I know I'm biased and I'm going to like it. I do think it's one of the strongest in the selection. I think that in particular the last minute of it could do with maybe a little bit more, but I think that overall musically, I think it's one of the strongest. So that is definitely a contender. She did really well with the jury. She came second in her heat with the televote, which, yeah, I think, it's very hard to tell with Lithuania. Things change week by week, it feels like, in those selections. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yes, I am obviously very much a fan of her entry. I think it made sense to sort of give her moment in Heat 2 as well. So maybe that's why they did that. But yeah, it was really strong. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what she does and if she does elevate things in the semi-finals, which start next week. Obviously, last night we had the other big names, I suppose. The only other one was Erica Jennings in Heat 1, and that was not necessarily great, is what I would say. But we had Gabrasi, who was the runner-up last year. I really loved his song, Where Do You Want to Go, from the 2021 selection. It was in my top played songs of 2021 on Spotify. I listened to it an awful lot. I think that his new song is fine. I don't think it's as strong as Where Do You Want to Go, but it was one of the ones that stood out to me. The more I listened to it, the more it sort of clicked for me. So maybe, again, if he can change things around. It didn't feel like he did overall that well, though, with the jury or the televote, so maybe not as much support there. The big winner last night was Monica Liu, who is... She's singing in Lithuanian. She wants to bring Lithuanian back to the Eurovision stage. Sentimentai, which was her song, is different. It has like a vaguely Barbara Pravi Voila edge to it. I guess in the styling, in the look, she's by herself. The staging is very different, and the song is, but it feels sort of one of those. It's one of those where it's like, I could see this being like, if you told me what country is this representing, you could almost see like, okay, like Voila was obviously France. It feels like this is very kind of obviously Lithuania in a way as well. Which I think is really cool. I think it's going to be a grower. I don't think it didn't grab me as much as, for example, Voila did, first of all. And I'm not trying to compare between years. I hate doing that, but it's just an obvious, an obvious starting point. And I would say, we haven't really had, typically at Eurovision, the next year on, you get a lot of songs that try and repeat either the winner or the second place, generally. So we got a lot of Fuego, kind of similar to Fuego songs. We are getting a lot of similar to Måneskin songs and Ziti Abuoni. So all of those things sort of put together, we haven't really had that many that are like Voila. So I like that we're getting something like that from Lithuania. And I could see Monica winning. She did really, really well with jury, televote, all of that. So it's not 100% my favourite. I think it's going to grow on me though. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Hello to everybody saying hello in the chat, by the way. Sorry, I'm realising that I'm not necessarily paying attention there, but hi everybody. I will get to any questions. If you have questions, if you've got thoughts, please do leave them in the chat. As I said, leave them in the comments if you're watching this back. Also, last night we had Lolita Zero, who, Not Your Mother. It's a great studio song in its own way. Like, it's not a competitive Eurovision song. It feels like I can't see this actually getting all the way through, but I think as a song and as a moment, it's really cool. The performance last night, obviously, I don't think that the outfit necessarily worked. It felt like Lolita nearly fell over twice very early on because those shoes were ridiculous. The horns looked like they were a bit crooked. It just didn't necessarily work as well as Get Frightened did, but you can see that the look is elevated, that the artistry is elevated from where Get Frightened was, her entry a few years back. 2017, I guess? 2018, I think. You can see how that is, how it is evolving. So yeah, really excited to see. I can imagine Lolita Zero sort of evolving that, and the artist, behind Lolita Zero really trying to work on it. Obviously, there's no Jury Velenko to do the vocals anymore, but it's not really a vocal-led song. It's very much the instrumentation. It feels like, imagine if Min Hinsti Dance, Iceland 1997, imagine that 25 years later and how it might evolve and where it's gone to. That kind of feels like what I'm getting from Lolita Zero vibes. My actual favourite from last night, though, was Ruta Loop. Now, Ruta's tried a few times before for Lithuania. This was by far and away my favourite entry that she's done. I really liked the performance, really thought that overall it was just very... It had that artistry to it. It had a moment and it grasped me for the 3 minutes. I think the problem a lot of the time with Lithuania is it's sort of like you can have Pabandom is now drawn in the background and it's fine and you listen and then you just sort of pay attention to the song and then you jump out. That grabbed me from start to finish, Ruta Loop. So yeah, I really want to see, like, if that evolves, if that keeps going bigger, if what she managed to do on that small stage, when we actually get to the final, which I'm sure she will be in, I really hope so anyway, I would love to see how that looks on a big stage, how it then even looks on a Eurovision stage. I don't necessarily think that she will get there. I do think it's probably between Ieva and Monica Liu. In the grand scheme of things, I think that's where it's going to come down to. But Rootaloop, really a standout, and I could see, again, maybe that momentum will carry forward. Maybe she'll be there next year as well, and then we might see her at Eurovision if she continues that style, because I think that there is, obviously, she's got a vision, and I think that's so important. A vision for Eurovision, so important. Speaking of vision, I suppose we will get onto this, but we will touch on the logo and the slogan and the branding that we have now got for Eurovision, because that obviously is something that has come out and is divisive, I think would be the nicest way to talk about it. But yes, I really think, I think that there are some, Lithuania, obviously, you know, they're an odd country at Eurovision. They are like 50-50. Sometimes they qualify, sometimes they don't. They had a really good run of it for a while where they were consistently qualifying. I think, 2015, 2016, and then 2017. Lithuania 2017. What was Lithuania 2017? I don't know. But again, it's like 2015, 2016 they did. 18 they did. 19 they didn't. 21 they did. So we'll see what happens 2022. What was Lithuania 2017? Please let me know in the live chat, because it's entirely drawing blank for me. But yeah, again, like they're hit and miss. Vilia I can't say her surname. Vilia obviously came back 2014. She didn't make it. I liked her song last night. She didn't do well in the televote at all, but I actually thought that it was quite nice. Oh God, Fused Mark. Okay, that's why I've forgotten it. Thank you, Joe and Liam, for shouting that out in the chat. Yeah, there's a reason why I forgot Reign of Revolution existed, or at least tried to. Yeah, that wasn't great. And again, that's the thing. They are hit and miss. But the 2017 selection, from memory, I think the only good option was Like I Love You, maybe? I think that was 2017, which definitely should have won, but it didn't. So yeah, I think that there's potential for them to make it through with some of these songs. I think Yeva, Monica Liu definitely are qualifiers, but again, I mean, we're saying this like they're definite qualifiers, they have a chance. We've seen 3 actual songs and we don't really know a lot of the other fields, so let's not jump to conclusions, but I can see good things, and I think there are some strong entries there, which from where Lithuania have been, where you often will only get like the one good song in a selection, then, you know, there's definite progress there. So, yes, that's Lithuania. Let me know sort of what some of your favourites are, what you think is going to happen there. Let me know over in the chat or down in the comments. And then, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about Norway. Now, I will admit, I can see this being very much a 2-horse race. I think it is 100%. Well, I imagine it's going to come down to LCB, Death of Us, and then Subwoofer with Give That Wolf a Banana. It feels like that. And when you think back, last year, MGP 2021, it sort of very much felt like it was inevitably going to be Kino versus Tix. Like, when you got down to the bottom of it and you realised Tix's support and Kino's, like, Monument was obviously a great song. And it feels like they were both automatic qualifiers. And it feels like with a lot of MGP recently, it feels like a lot of the, like, why are we making, like, week on week doing a 6-week show, where ultimately it's probably going to come down to 2 automatic qualifiers. Like, I can see why they're doing it, because, you know, you do get some good songs that come through, and they're not established artists, so you don't want to, like, make them fight the established artists, but I just feel like it's dragging it out a little bit too much. And I think especially, unfortunately, that was sort of epitomised last night by 4 performances which didn't feel like they were on the same level as Elsie Bay's, like, vision and performance of Death of Us last week, or the guy from A1, the automatic qualifier, Christian, is that his name? Like, last night as well. Like, clearly a cut above. I thought that Farida with Dangerous was the obvious winner of last night. I still felt like overall it looked a bit like an X Factor kind of performance, like a really good X Factor performance, like maybe a finalist in X Factor performance, but there was just elements of it that didn't stand out to me, unfortunately, and I think that there needed to be something extra. Farida seemed a bit nervous. Hopefully this will, like, G her up, and obviously she seemed nervous throughout the entire night, like, looking at her expecting to lose both the duels she was in, it felt like. So hopefully this will give us some confidence. It will bring it to the actual final, and then we'll get something really good. But yeah, I just feel like ultimately Lithuania last night was better than MGP, and you wouldn't really, historically, you would expect that a Norwegian heat would be better than a Lithuanian heat. That's sort of the way. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily a great week for MGP. Last week was a little bit better. I kind of liked Ecstasy, but it was obviously not going to work live when you actually had to do a full live performance without the auto-tune and backing vocals and all of that kind of stuff that was going on. So yeah, I can see it coming down to Elsie Bay, and we've seen Death of Us. I liked the idea behind the staging. I really liked the idea of like the empty orchestra. It needed something more, and hopefully that will come. It felt like they were working out camera angles and a lot of those kind of things. But I liked the idea of the empty orchestra. I would have loved it if they had have managed to make them move somehow, like put them on strings or do something so it's more like a cacophony or something, or have a bigger moment when she hits that big high note and that prolonged high note. It needed something extra because the lighting alone didn't really do it. And then it was just like, well, she's just been stood in front of an empty orchestra for 2 minutes. So hopefully, again, like, it's cliche, set the piano on fire, do something, set everything on fire, because it feels like that it needed that extra little bit. Right now, it kind of feels like Growing Up is Getting Old, where that sort of had a really nice idea with the sand running and the stage at the beginning, and then after a minute and a half of it, you're sort of like, okay, well, it's not really progressing that far. So hopefully, again, they've got the great start to a stage concept. It feels like it needs that next little bit. Now, I do see Subwoofer, Give That Wolf a Banana, being the competition, because whether or not it's Ylvis or not, it feels like it has to be. You would assume they would come out and say, no, it's not us, or maybe they like the hype. Whatever it is, there's obviously something going on there. Give That Wolf a Banana is obviously not... It's a difficult one. I like the song. I can't deny, I kind of like the song. Do I think it's right for Eurovision? Do I think it'll get a good result? Probably not. I think it might end up in a bit of a joust kind of situation, where, you know, it might actually do better with the jury, which feels weird, than the televote. But yeah, it's a tricky one, because I do like the song. I think it's catchy. I 100% think that it will annoy some people, but I don't think it's on the level of like a Jendrik last year, where that was my whole thing with Jendrik was like, some people are going to love it and they will vote for it. I think, unfortunately, that didn't happen. I think some people really did love it, but I don't think that it motivated them to vote for it. And I think that might have been the performance. I think it just didn't work ultimately on stage. We need to see what Subwoofer looks like on stage and how they perform it and what happens, but that is definitely one where I think there's more potential for it to do well than a Jendrik. I think it is more like it feels more like a joust kind of thing, where it's, you know, that kind of like dance and it's fun, but it's like wink wink fun, as opposed to hit you in the face with how cheesy this is fun, like Jendrik was going for. So we'll see. I can't remember when I think they might be they're either next week or the second round automatic qualifier performance. So we'll see it soon enough. We'll then be able to judge, and then, you know, there'll still be time for them to figure out exactly how it's going to look when we get to the final itself in MGP, which I think is still another 4 weeks away. So we've got some time. There's a lot of national finals in between then and now, which we will have to talk about. So yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So Liam actually said exactly as I was, Jendrik 2.0 and Victoria 2021. So yeah, there you go. I think there is definitely that vibe. But I think that they could elevate what they're doing with Elsie Bay. I think that, again, Victoria, they had a nice idea, but they overthought it. And I think that right now they're underthinking what they're doing with Elsie Bay, which they might be able to find a happy medium with enough time to do that. We will see. And Sarah says, I found MGP so good last year. I'm a bit disappointed so far this year. Yeah, I'm a little... I think that last year we had Rayleigh, who was really, really strong, obviously, in her heat. And that really won people over. And I think generally the standard was a little bit better. But I still think that it feels like they're doing a big national final kind of for the sake of it. there are definitely some entries where I'm like, you could have done this in 3 heats and then, do a second chance round or something like that. You don't need to stretch this out over 4, whatever, or however it might be. Do 2 heats, and it feels like they could be doing it a little bit better. And obviously the dual format is tricky as well, and I'm not going to get into that whole kind of conversation in terms of formats, but you're creating difficulties, I think, there is what I would say. So speaking of national finals and things that are coming up, obviously this week we have Benidorm Fest in Spain, so we're going to get Spain's selection. I think Israel is also due to select this week or something like that. Like, their X Factor show seems to have been going on for quite a while, and nobody really seems to be covering it, so I haven't really been paying attention, not going to lie, but we will see what happens there. I'm sure they'll select it at some point soon, and then it'll go through a revamp because it says Israel. Everything gets revamped. But yes, Benidorm Fest. Obviously, there's already drama. If you haven't already watched my Eurovision National Final Dramas video, do go check that out after this live stream. But yeah, there's already drama because, of course, there is. It's Spain. Because Luna Key has pulled out. They said that they weren't allowed to use auto-tune, which... you're not, or at least like the enhancements. There's something going on there, and it is against the rules. Whether it's one of those where I never really trust, in the nicest way. Like, it's always an artist versus the broadcaster thing in Spain, and I always feel like reality is it's somewhere in between the fault of the two of them. Because obviously the artist isn't going to turn around and be like, it was my fault, and the broadcaster isn't going to say that. I imagine it lies somewhere in between. So yes, we're only down to 13 in Spain now. I can see Rigoberta winning with I Mama. I have listened to it an awful lot, and I think it's like trending in the global viral Spotify charts now. I think it is really fun. I would love Tangueras, I think that's how you say it, with Terra. Azucar Moreno, obviously really good. Like, I love them. Postureo. Yeah, really, really good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Spain. Then we've got Sanremo, which starts next week. Really looking forward to that. I really got into Sanremo last year. Never really enjoyed it before. It sounds like my faves, La Representante de Lista, have a really, really strong song and actually have a shot. Like, all the journalists in Italy seem to be like, this is a top 3 at least in Sanremo song, which I'm excited about. LRDL, please get there. I would love to see them at Eurovision. I adored Amare last year. It was my favourite going in. I had like 7 favourites, including Måneskin, but I think Amare was my favourite last year. We will see what happens with the rest of Sanremo. Obviously, we've got Mahmood, we've got Emma back. You've got Irama, the guy who couldn't perform last year. There's so many really, really strong artists. Irayo, that's it. Really strong artists in Sanremo. And I think that's great because obviously my concern for Italy this year, and it is a general concern, is like, well, the host country curse seems to be a little bit real, but also, yeah, I think Django was a legitimate entry, and I think the Netherlands wanted to do well with that. I think they obviously would have done better with Grow. I 100% think that would have done better than You Know Man Broco Me. What was that song actually called? I just remember that a bit as the... Oops, can't remember. Netherlands 2021. What was the name of that song? Anyway, you know the one I mean. I think that Italy are trying, though, and I think that, they're putting their best foot forward. Who knows? We haven't heard the songs, but if anybody could do a double again, if any country could, I think it could be Italy, just because historically, over the last decade, they have put out amazing Eurovision songs. Like, since they've come back, I was never a fan of 2011, but I would say that all of their entries, for the most part, have been so strong. Emma La Mia Cheetah wasn't great live, but Emma can perform live. If you ever need examples that Emma is great and is an amazing performer, go watch Non È l'Inferno, which was her Sanremo winning song in 2012. it is one of my favourite songs. I think it's an amazing song, amazing live performance. Watching her win Sanremo with that is still like a memory I have, because that was like one of the first times I watched Sanremo, and that blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. Birth of a New Age. Yes, thank you guys. That was what Netherlands 2021 was. So yeah, Sanremo, really looking forward to that. Otherwise, Una Voce per San Marino. We've got a week of that to look forward to. Look forward in maybe quotation marks. Who knows what's going to happen there. I am looking forward to it just to see what it looks like and how that goes, because I think it's going to be pretty crazy. And the other big one, and actually I'm probably going to do, it probably will be the next like non-live stream video, but Finland. Uuden Musiikin Kilpailu, UMK 2022, is amazing. It's so strong. I think that's one of the strongest national final fields we've had in a very long time. And it goes to stand the point of, like, if you end up choosing 7 really, really good songs, that's all you need for a national final. You don't need to drag it out like necessarily Lithuania or Norway are doing. UMK, I think, is really, really good. I could see 4 or 5 of those songs getting to Eurovision and then doing well at Eurovision. I really like the fact that there's so many of them in Finnish. I really hope that they end up selecting one of the ones that's in Finnish. Ram Pam Pam, really, really good. Isaac Seiner's song, which I can't actually pronounce the name of. Really love that. Son Numero, really like that one. Yeah, I think UMK is ridiculously strong. I think it's the best UMK field they've ever had. Overall as like an entire group, because I think there have been like really strong UMK songs before. But yeah, UMK, really, really, really looking forward to that. So we will see. Again, we need to see what it looks like live, but I can see that doing well. And it's a great example of, they've taken the success they had with Blind Channel, they've looked at obviously Måneskin winning, and like some of them are like rockier, but it's not an exact copy. None of them are like, we are just trying to ape what Måneskin are doing, which it feels like Bulgaria, for example, tried to be like, let's just send a rock song. Like, they've actually, Finland have thought about it, and it feels like all the artists have looked at, okay, what has done well at Eurovision? Let me adapt that to my style. You know, the Rasmus is probably the closest you would get, because it's sort of a throwback, in the same way that Blind Channel felt like a bit of a throwback to some of those like noughties, 10s sort of bands. The Rasmus obviously are one of those noughties bands, and Jezebel is probably one of my least favourites, but it's cool to have the Rasmus in there. I kind of hope that they don't win it. I hope that they don't, in the nicest way, because I think that there are much better entries than Jezebel. We will see. We will see what it comes to in UMK. We've got Melfest. We've got Australia Decides. Really looking forward to Jaguar Jones and Sheldon Riley and seeing what they do. But yeah, lots coming up. I just had a moment where I was like, Sheldon Riley is the right one, not Sheldon Cooper. That's the Big Bang Theory. So yeah, lots of national final stuff to come up. And before we go, let us touch on The Sound of Beauty, which is our new slogan. We've got the logo, we've got the branding, everything came out. It felt like it slightly leaked ahead of time on Friday, when it sort of, the poster started going up, but they hadn't really announced it. I don't mind it. I think, look, here's the thing, and I've said this on my Twitter, links down below, but I'm not a logo person. I don't really care about the slogans. I don't really care about the logos. Ultimately, I'm more like the music, and actually like just looking at the stage and things like that. The branding doesn't really bother me that much. I don't really remember, like, often it doesn't feel like it matters. Like, All Aboard, okay, great, Come Together was funny, Celebrate Diversity sort of became a bit of a joke because there wasn't a lot in terms of what Ukraine were doing. Yeah, it just felt like it's fine. It doesn't bother me. I can see some people like it, some people really don't. I think that the logo itself is sort of, it doesn't feel necessarily very Italian. I looked at it and it felt more, I don't know, it didn't necessarily feel that Italian. But ultimately, like, for me, the logo is the heart. So, you know, it will be interesting to see how they apply it. And maybe I've seen some people do mock-ups of how it might actually then look when we get to the show. That'll be cool, and I'd like to see that, because ultimately, like, that's also the thing that stands out. I look at things like the TV graphics and what font they use for that, and that's my kind of thing that I like to look at, and that used to excite me when I would be in the press office and see this kind of stuff start popping up, because we're like, oh, that's interesting. I like how they've actually put it in the show. All the ancillary stuff and like the graphics that go around the host city, I'm like, okay, great, nice. That's sort of where I'm at on it. I appreciate that some people really do like that stuff though. So let me know what your thoughts are on the Sound of Beauty and how everything looks for Eurovision 2022. Obviously, let me know any national final favourites, anything like that you've got. Let me know down in the comments below. And yeah, people saying, with these colours, it's fair to say the logo was designed by the boys team on The Apprentice, which is an Apprentice UK reference, if you don't know that. But yes, there's a weird sort of brownie colour going on, which is fine. That's fine. It's we'll see. I think they'll probably apply the colours differently for each country, is what I would say. But we will find out. So, yes, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for watching along live, if you have. If you are watching back, as always, please do leave a like, comment with all of your thoughts, hit the subscribe button. And yeah, we will be back very shortly. We will have a few more thoughts about national finals, more videos coming up. Thank you to everybody that has watched my dramatic national final video. We've obviously got the Sanremo 1956 video is still there, which obviously will be relevant coming up very shortly with Sanremo 2022. So do go check that one out if you haven't already. And as always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Stay safe, look after yourselves, be nice, and I will catch you all soon. Bye all!